Hey guys, Chris Peach here and welcome to Money Peach TV. Hey, do you remember growing up learning how to handle money? Yeah, neither do I. So that's why we're here today to make money fun again. We're going to talk about the principles in life that matter when it comes to managing your money the right way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Money Peach TV. Before we jump into this incredible episode of Money Peach TV, I want to take a second to talk to you guys about my #1 online program for showing you how to go from with money to being awesome with money, and that's Awesome Money Course. So head on over to awesomemoneycourse.com so you can see why people all over the world are taking advantage of this #1 online program for showing you how to be awesome with your money. So a friend of mine sends me this article the other day, and they knew why they're sending it to me. They're going to get me all fired up, and they did. So the article states, it's from CNN Money, and it states in 2015, banks collected $32.5 billion in the form of overdraft fees. $32.5 billion. So, in today's world, we hear the number trillions and millions and billions, and it just becomes this word to us. We don't really truly understand the value of this number anymore. So let me just break this down for you, okay? If you were to count one number a second, so 1, 2, 3, and so on, and you wanted to count to 1 billion, it would take you approximately 40 years. Okay, 40 years to get to 1 billion. Now take that a step further in this example of $32.5 billion in overdraft fees. That means every single human being, every single heartbeat in the United States, not adults, but children, babies, husband, wives, children, whatever it might be, every single human being in the United States, if they were to hand over $100, we still would not have $32.5 billion. We'd just be short of that. So that's how much money $32.5 billion is, and this money is strictly from our stupidity with managing money. It's from not doing a budget. If people are continually overdrafting over and over again and paying these banks these outrageous fees, then basically it's because of our own stupidity. It's because we're not doing 5th grade math. We're not doing a budget. We're just pretending that we can manage everything in our head and everything's going to work out great, and then boom, we get whacked with the overdraft fee. So one of the things I wanted to look at is, how do these overdraft fees even work? Why is it $32.5 billion? So I started doing some digging, and what I'm going to share with you today is going to blow your mind with how these banks are taking advantage of you. And really, are they taking advantage of you, or are they just doing business with your stupidity? I don't know. It's your decision there. So let's take a look at this for a second. Okay, so usually when you overdraft, it's from something that most of the time it's a transaction that's automated every month. So you might have, something on bill pay, your account's low, you don't realize it, the bill pay comes through, and boom, you go into overdraft. So here's how this works. I'll just use an example for the cable company. So let's say you have cable at home and you're paying a cable subscription, and every month on the 20th, that bill's due. Let's say it's $100. So it's the 20th of the month. You might be at soccer practice, late at work, or you just completely forget, but you know or you don't know, but there's not enough money in your checking account to cover this $100. You have $70 left in your checking account. The bill's going to come out for $100. So the cable company goes to your bank and tries to grab $100. Now, the bank has two options here. Okay, the bank has two options. The first option is the bank can approve the transaction. So the bank approves the transaction, the cable company gets their $100, and you go into overdraft with the bank. So as soon as that happens, you pay on average around a $35, maybe it's a $37 fee, one-time fee right there. Boom, you get hit with that fee right there in the form of overdraft fee. Okay, so that's step one. Now you don't realize it. You don't realize this happened. And your friend calls you up and says, hey, I'm having a hard time. Would you meet me for a cup of coffee? So you go over there and you go, swipe your card for a $7 cup of coffee. You get hit with another overdraft fee. So most of these banks allow up to 5 overdraft fees. Some even allow 7 overdraft fees per day, per transaction. So I'm just going to give you an example. If you do 7 times a day, so if you have, a $35 transaction 7 times a day, you're looking at around $259 in overdraft fees per day. Per day. You don't realize it until later. It gets worse though. It gets even worse than this. So they also have something called extended overdraft, which means now you got to think about it. To get out of this overdraft, you have to cover however much the fee was. So let's just say you did it one time. Okay, so you overdraft. You have a $100 cable bill. You overdraft $30 because you only had 70 in your account. So you overdraft 30 and they charge you $35 for the fee. So now you'd have to pony up $65 just to get back to zero and then add more money into your checking account. And if you went into the extreme and you used the 7 times rule, which means you could overdraft up to 7 times in one day, now you'd have to pay $259 in overdraft fees plus the original $30 you overdrafted. So you're looking at what, $290, $300 just to get back to zero. This is insane. Okay. Now they also have something called extended overdraft, which is very lovely. So extended overdraft means if you stay in this overdraft mode for so long, meaning you don't keep swiping your card. Hint, you could be on vacation. You don't even realize it. Every maybe 3 to 5 days, you're going to get hit with another fee because you remained in overdraft long. It could be another $35 fee. So these fees just keep adding up. And the banks are smart. I will say the banks are smarter than you because the banks are collecting $32.5 billion simply in us being, mismanaging our money, being children with money. So here's something that a lot of people don't realize, and it's really important. Banks use a process. It's called high to low processing. I want you to think about that. High to low processing. So here's how this works. And this is a riot. I mean, this is absolutely insane. So you ever notice that when you charge something on your debit card or your credit card, you charge something, and we'll use debit cards, for example, but you charge something on your debit card, and at the end of the day, you might check your bank account, you go online, you see these pending transactions, right? Well, those pending transactions are not in order of what time of day you purchased, okay? They are in order of highest to lowest, okay? And that's done on purpose. So why would that be? How would that help the bank? So let's think about this for a second, okay? Let's say you go to Starbucks and you get a $5 coffee, overdraft, and then you go to the grocery store, you spend $100 in overdraft, right? Well, if you only had $70 in your account and the banks processed the Starbucks thing first, then you're not going to get charged an overdraft fee for that. But when you go to the grocery store and you overspend, then you go into overdraft, you'll get the one-time fee of $35. However, the banks realize, well, if we process high to low, so it doesn't matter what time of day you bought it. If it's within this 24-hour period, whatever's the most expensive thing you purchase is going to be processed first. So therefore, in this situation, instead of Starbucks being processed first, we're going to process the grocery store transaction first. And that's, overdrafting right now. And then the next thing we're going to process is the $5 Starbucks, which is also going to be an overdraft. So the banks are smart. They're going to make sure that no matter what, they get their money from you. And they're going to make sure they get the most money from you, which is why we're seeing $32.5 billion. And you might be thinking, well, this isn't fair. Well, it's perfectly legal. It's absolutely legal. So the funny thing is when I was going to ASU, Arizona State University, home of my Sun Devils, when I was going to ASU, I had an economics teacher, and she was absolutely crazy, absolutely bizarre. And I remember I was sitting there in class, and we were talking about different things. We're talking about fees. And one of the things she said is, what do you guys think about seatbelts? And we kind of looked at her like, well, where did this come from? So she said, I would like to cut all seatbelts out of cars. And I would like to remove all airbags out of cars. And instead of having seatbelts and instead of having airbags, what if we put a 6-inch dagger on the end of the steering wheel facing our chest? And I'm thinking, this lady is out of her mind. And she goes, hold on for a second. And she looks at me and she goes, let me ask you this. If you didn't have a seatbelt and you didn't have an airbag and you had a knife a couple inches away from your chest, how fast would you drive on the freeway? How much more would you be paying attention? Would you be switching the radio station, eating French fries and all that good stuff? Or would you have your hands at 10 and 2, focused, probably going 10 under the speed limit? And she was right. See, what's going on here is we changed our minds a little bit. We started thinking about pain as the motivator, right? I don't want that dagger in my chest. That's painful, right? That would hurt. So I'm going to make sure I'm driving really slow. I'm going to make sure I'm paying attention. Same thing happens with our money. So I look at this and I say, the banks are charging $32.5 billion, which is outrageous, but we're paying it. We're absolutely paying it because we can't do 5th grade math, because we're not willing to do a budget, because we're too busy doing dumb things with money that we don't have time to manage our money, or so we think. So I think the bank should double their fees. Yeah, I think the bank should double their fees. And I know you're thinking no, Chris, that's crazy. That's highway robbery. Well, I wonder how much more we're willing to pay. I think we need to feel pain. I think we need to actually feel the pain. I mean, people out there are paying $32.5 billion in fees. And the thing is, this study says that about only 1 out of 3 Americans pay overdraft fees. So remember I said every American in the United States pays $100. So if we're really talking about 1 out of 3, then it'd be every American in the United, or that group of people is paying $300 in overdraft fees to come to this $32.5 billion. So pain is a great motivator, and we're not feeling the pain because we're paying it. So why are we paying it? Well, it's simple. We're not willing to do a budget. 70% of Americans don't live on a monthly budget. They're paycheck to paycheck. And when you're paycheck to paycheck, you're what's called crisis living. You live right along the edge of zero in your checking account, and that's not okay. That's not okay. There's an old saying that if you don't handle money, it'll go to those who do handle money. Okay, if you don't handle money the right way, it's going to go to those who handle money the right way. So the banks are handling money the right way, according to this study here. They're making a ton of money off of us. So if we're not willing to manage our money, if we have this idea that, I want it now. I don't have the money now, but I want it now. That's how we get into these mindsets. We don't pay attention to it. We live paycheck to paycheck. Then our money is going to leave us, and it's going to go to those who know how to manage money. Now, one of the things I don't agree with this study is it says here, one of the ways to get out of this hole you're in is to, go to a bank that doesn't offer overdraft fees, or to set up text message alerts to let you know when your balance is low. That's fine. What about getting on a budget? What about actually managing money the right way? I mean, is that too hard to say? Are we not allowed to say that in society anymore? Does it hurt too many people's feelings when we say, listen, what you're doing is not working? If 7 out of 10 people are living paycheck to paycheck, the average credit card debt is $16,000. The average student graduates with $38,000 in student loan debt. And now we're facing $1.4 trillion in student loan debt. Basically, we're just in this society where it's spend, 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 spend. We don't care. We don't care because we think there's always going to be some kind of safety net. Well, the safety net costs $32.5 billion if you haven't been paying attention. So what if instead of waiting for the banks to, fix their problem, quote unquote, or waiting for the government to come to the rescue and say, hey, banks, you're being too mean, ease up on these overdraft fees. What if we took it upon ourselves to finally change this? It's called being an adult. Quit waiting for other people to take care of your problems. The problem is right there in front of you. So how do you solve this problem? Well, what if you started measuring the money each month? They say what gets managed or what gets measured gets managed. So if you start measuring the money coming in and going out, if you live on a monthly budget, there's a step. What if we stopped overspending? What if we lived on less than we make? No, Chris, don't say that. I work really hard for my money. I should be able to spend every single penny that comes in. It's your money. You can do whatever you want. But what if you lived on less than you made? What if you had an emergency fund set aside? For some of you, you're thinking emergency fund. What's that? What if you had no debt, but your mortgage? What if you had zero debt, but your mortgage? Think about that for a second. For some of you, you're thinking in your head, like, I can't even fathom what that would feel like. What would that feel like to not owe anybody a dime? What would it feel like to go to bed at night having $10,000 sitting in a bank account earmarked strictly for emergencies? How would you sleep at night? What would it feel like? What would your relationship be like with your spouse? What would your relationship be like with your friends, your family? What would giving be like for you? And instead we're paying $32.5 billion in overdraft fees. Up to $259 a day in overdraft fees because we're not willing to do simple 5th grade math. It's simple. It's simple. This whole finance thing, I've told you over and over again, it's 10% 5th grade math, 90% behavior. You have to change. The government can come in, they can regulate the banks a little bit, and that's going to help with the math portion. But the behavior portion is up to you. The behavior portion is up to you. There's a reason why you're listening to this today. You've had enough. You're tired. You're tired of running this treadmill of nonstop, where you just can't breathe anymore. When is this going to end? I can't afford another overdraft fee. I can't afford to live like this. I want my life back. Someday I want to go on vacation. Someday I want to pay for my kids' college so they don't have to, go $38,000 in student loan debt when they graduate. Someday I want to retire. Someday I want to relax and breathe. And we can't do that because we hyper consume. We don't live on a budget. And we just think that eventually it's going to get better. It will get better if you decide that you need it to get better. It will get better, but you have to be the decision maker. You're in the driver's seat of your money. Okay, don't pay attention to what you're seeing in media where, whatever politician's going to get elected is going to save you. Come on now, stop it. We've seen this over and over again. What works? I'll tell you what works because it worked for me and it's worked for hundreds and hundreds of people that I've met with. What works is when you get on a plan, your plan. You create a plan for your money. Instead of your money controlling you, you control the money. You control your life. You control how much you're going to spend. You control how much you're going to save. You control the outcome of your financial life. I got a sign in my office here that says the best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. No more waiting for the banks to get regulated to figure it out. No more waiting for the government to take care of you. It's time to take care of yourself. It's time for you to be in the driver's seat of your life and your money. It's up to you. You're going to continue to live paycheck to paycheck, or are you going to do something about it? Are you going to finally say, I've had it. Enough is enough. I want my life back. I want my money back. I don't want to spend $32.5 billion in society to overdraft fees because I'm too immature to do simple 5th grade math and behavior management with my money. It's up to you. I want you to win. Winning is fun. Winning is fun. We'll see you guys next week in another amazing episode of the Money Beach Podcast. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Money Peach TV. But before you leave, I want you to leave with a free gift. Go to moneypeach.com and please download my free budgeting form. 12,000 people as of today all over the world are using this thing every single month. I want you to be one of them as well. The number one habit of highly successful people is being proactive. Be proactive by getting on a budget. Moneypeach.com. Download the budget there. And also don't forget to check out awesomemoneycourse.com, the number one online program for taking you from with your money to showing you how to truly manage your money the right way. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Boom,